Hey everyone, check out this new product that we're working on for 60 to 66 Chevy C10 and GMC trucks. We're going to be installing these laser cut roll cage mounting pads in our GMC truck. We decided to do an inside roll cage, and we wanted to make a solution that was semi bolt in, or have the option of being bolt in if you want. We're going to make ours bolt in and removable so that we can do some of the paint work on the roll cage and around the roll cage and make that a little bit more easy. So here's a kit that we've developed. These parts are designed to fit in the truck in certain locations without modifying the truck. The only thing you will have to do is drill a few holes if you decide to bolt it in. Now, you don't have to bolt it in. You could utilize the holes, the bolt holes, as plug weld holes. If you prefer to just weld your cage in, stiffen up the cab, you can do that too. They're going to come with hardware, riv nuts, and 6 mounting pads. Let's go show you how to install it. All right, here's the first thing you need to do. We've got 3 pieces here. We're just doing the passenger side right now. We've got this piece, which is the rear lower mount. And so basically this hole right here that I'm sticking my finger through, that's where the original seatbelt hole mounts. So that's how you line it up, and that's how you can make sure you get it in the right spot. Then, next thing we're going to do is transfer those holes into the metal. Then we're going to drill those holes out and install our bolts. Okay, then the next panel, or the next landing pad, is this here. So this bracket right here is where the original gas tank used to mount behind the seat. Well, we've eliminated that gas tank, and if you want to utilize these pads, you're going to have to do the same thing. Eventually we'll cut this bracket off and get it out of the way, but we're going to utilize this right here because this bolt right here is tied directly to the body mounts that mount to the chassis. And so this is going to give us a real nice rigid location for the cage to mount to. This one out here, not so much. I mean, mainly we want this one is so that we can make the bar come down and land where we want, and then we'll tie into it with a crossbar, and then from that crossbar we'll come down. So this one's just a little extra support, but it's not necessarily tied directly to the chassis where this one is. So we'll line it up, we'll do the same thing, transfer those holes right into that pocket, and then we can drill into this. It's hollow underneath. Now these you won't be able to access from the backside with a nut and a bolt. So this is where you'll want to install 2 of the riv nuts. We'll drill those out and use a special tool, hydraulic hand tool, that we offer at hammerfab.com. It's for installing riv nuts as well as some of our dimple dies. All right, now the last part of the puzzle that we need to fit and install is the front angle bracket. So this one is a specific angle that's bent to fit the angle from the floor pan to the kick panel here. So if you notice, our floor pan's got a little bit of rot right here, so just kind of ignore that for this demonstration. We're going to fix that before we final install our part, but we can still show you how this is going to work. So this curve right here is made to fit right on the other side of this curve. Okay, so you want to just set it in there like that, and basically you want to line this up just on the other side of that step, and that's where you want to transfer this hole and this hole and this hole and this hole. Now these 2 holes, you have to get that in the right spot because these 2 holes go through, there's a brace that comes right through here, and this one goes on that side of the brace and this one goes on this side of the brace. And if you don't get that quite right, you're gonna miss that brace, and it's not gonna be fun. All right, now we're gonna mark the holes, transfer them into the original floor pans, and then start drilling. We're gonna use a Sharpie marker, get that panel positioned, or the landing pad positioned right where we said. Transfer that hole. Okay, now get this guy where you want it. Whoops, that one got too dirty. Doesn't like writing on dirt. There we go. And then line this one up with your seatbelt hole, and then make sure that line up that back edge, and then transfer the holes. Okay, we're ready to start drilling. Okay, so when you're drilling these holes, you gotta kind of plan this out, which ones you want to through bolt, or which ones you want to weld, or which ones you want to riv nut, because they all depend on whether or not you drill a hole, and they also dictate what size that hole is going to be. So these rear ones here are going to be through bolts, so all we need is a 3/8 hole. Maybe we might go to one size bigger just to make it easier to install. So what I've got here is a step bit, and the 1, 2, 3, 4th step is a 3/8, and then the 5th one is a 7/16. So right now I'm on the 3/8. That's the size bolt we're going to use, but I'm just going to go up one more size just to make it easier. Right there, that's a 7/16 hole. Now this one's kind of hard to get to. There we go. And that's that. Now we're going to go on the bottom side with a countersink bit and deburr it just a little bit. Okay, so here's some guidelines on bolting this rear cab landing pad in. So this guy right here down in the bottom is going to have a riv nut in it if you decide to bolt it in, because it's in the middle of the brace. Okay, so you can riv nut all 5 of them if you want, or you can just riv nut that one and then bolt the other ones. Or you can just not drill any holes and just weld the pad right to the truck. It's up to you. The riv nuts that we're using are 3/8/16 bolts. That's the size bolts that we're going to use. You got to have a special size drill bit though, which is 17/32, which is the exact size you need for these riv nuts to crimp properly. Okay, so we drilled it out to a 1/2 inch, which is 16/32. So one more 32nd is 17/32. So that's just an easy mental note. This step bit, the biggest diameter on it is a 1/2 inch. So you can just go ahead and run it all the way through, and then switch to the 17/32, and that's going to get you pretty close. Now we're going to install that riv nut, just that one. We're going to bolt the other ones. Riv nuts are a little bit pricey, so it's up to you if you want to riv nut them or not, all of them. We're just going to do the one. Okay, here's our riv nut installation tool. This is something you can buy at hammerfab.com. This particular one is kind of our workhorse. It's a little bit worn out, but you can get a brand new one of these. And not only will they install riv nuts, big riv nuts, but you can also use this tool to install some of our dimple dies. So not all of them, but some of them. So this is a pretty difficult riv nut to pull by hand, but with this hydraulic assist on this guy, it makes it really easy. So what we're going to do is, we've got the proper size mandrel selected here, and now we've threaded on our riv nut onto the mandrel, and now I've pumped it just until it touches right there on that flange. Now we're going to insert it into the metal, and then we're going to squeeze the handle, we're going to pump the handle until it stops. Alright, so we could get our HFD 100 down in there and get that riv nut started, but due to the tight confines, I couldn't get a good crimp on it all the way. It's mainly just because the tool wouldn't fit in here with the cab corner. So what I've got here is an alternative method of installing these riv nuts. You can get these at McMaster-Carr. So basically this is the size bolt that we're going to be using. You just put that in there, you thread that onto your down inside your riv nut, like so. And now you need 2 wrenches. You need a 7/8 and an 11/16. And now what we're going to do is we're going to tighten those like that. And what it's going to do is pull that riv nut and make it crimp properly. Okay, then you just loosen it. Now that one's ready. You can see it's fully crimped. The threads are up nice and tight. So that one's ready to accept a bolt. Okay, first get all your bolts started. That one's getting a nut. Oh, you can see I didn't do real good getting my holes lined up. I'm going to have to make a little bit of an adjustment on those holes. That's my bad. cut. See, even I mess up sometimes, you know? You can't do everything perfect. Okay, so we just got our holes off just a little bit, okay? It's not that big a deal. We're just gonna ream them out a little bit and then it'll be okay. There we go. Okay, now that's going to give us a nice spot for our cage to land right there. "17, 30 seconds. Well, that's a dull one. We're going to have to improvise. I don't think I have another one right now. We're just going to open it up a little bit and test fit a rib nut in there. You just want to grind a little bit and then test it. It's got to fit real snug. Also, try and get the burrs off the back side if you can. There we go. Okay, now we should be able to use this no problem right there because we can get to it. So first you thread on the rib nut, pump it until it just barely touches the flange, and then finish it out. And you go until it gets hard to squeeze, and then push that button. And then you unthread it. Put the next rib nut on, pump it until it touches, like that. Insert and squeeze. Squeeze until it gets hard, and then release. All right, I got a feeling this one's gonna line up better. Look at that. That's like laser perfection. I redeemed myself from the first attempt. That's the way it should go on, just like that. Okay, so now our roll cage can land there and there. Now we gotta do the one on the kick panel. Well, we nailed that one right on top of the brace, but we're gonna have to come back and fix that rust later. Oh yeah, we gotta do rib nuts here and through bolts there. All right, we're gonna open these up just a little bit. Like that. Like that. All right, install rib nut, pump until that takes up the slack. Insert, and then hit the button. Rib nut, slack, pump. Perfect. If that was any lower, our installation tool would not work. Here's the moment of truth. Okay, that one's good. That one down there, that one's off a little bit. So, at this point, I have to grind the bracket a little bit. I'd rather not, but I have to. Because once you install the rib nut, you can't really go backwards. You're committed. Okay, that one's gonna line up, and that one's gonna line up. So I got 3 out of the 4, that's not too bad. So you can see right there, that one does not line up. We're gonna have to grind it out a little bit. Okay, that should be enough. See, the washer's still gonna hide our hole, so we'll be okay. I don't like doing that if I can avoid it, but in certain situations where you got a rib nut involved, you don't really have any other option, because unless you nail it, like where that rib nut, unless you nail it, the hole exactly, And if the moon and the stars and everything align and your riv nut crimps perfectly straight, that's the only way you're going to get that to line up. So just expect a little bit of tuning. We're always tuning things. All right, there you go. There's your third location for mounting a roll cage. We got 1, 2, 3 spots on one side and 3 spots on the other side. What more could you want? So stay tuned. We're gonna have another video coming real soon on how to build a cage for the inside of this C10. It's gonna be awesome. Thank you for watching our latest video. If you guys would like to see more of what we have to offer here at Hammer Fab, such as our dimple dies, our bead roller dies, our assembly hammers, and everything else fabricated related, go to hammerfab.com. Thanks for watching.